We're putting you before the party. We're putting you and your family and the issues before the party. This is a different time in Texas. We've seen the pendulum swing back and forth, and finally, this is our moment here in Texas to change the political landscape.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Latino Vote Podcast, your weekly source of information on all things Latino politics from all around the country. I am, again, flying solo. Chuck is still out in Alaska. I'm seeing pictures. He's going to have some great pictures when he comes back. He's out with the Rocha boys right now, chasing grizzly bears, like being dangerously close to them, pulling some enormous fish. It looks kind of like Jurassic Park out there. So he's having the time of his life while I've got to kind of stay here and work. Par for the course. And I am also, by the way, I'm on a 6 a.m. flight tomorrow going into Friday. I'm heading out to Texas because some remarkable things are happening in Texas. And we're going to be meeting with some candidates down there, assessing what's happening with the Hispanic vote in those parts, because I think we're going to see something really, really historic. And that's why today's guest, I think, is particularly exciting, because deep there in the heart of Texas, San Antonio, a city I got to know a little bit. I'd like to say a lot, but it's a little bit. There's a lot to San Antonio: the history, the culture, the people, the food. Give them props. Give San Antonio props. Johnny Garcia, a candidate, Democratic candidate for Texas 35, I think is the number. This is one of those seats that you all have been hearing about that was carved up as part of this dummy-mander, prospectively, by Republicans looking to kind of steal a handful of seats, making the mistake, perhaps erroneously, my words, not Johnny's, I'll let him speak for himself, by carving out Hispanic majority or Hispanic plurality seats, believing erroneously that this was somehow going to be part of the new MAGA coalition. And part of that is in traditional nepotistic fashion. The brother of Monica de la Cruz, who is running against Bobby Polito in a neighboring district, is running for office, has received the endorsement and support of none other than Donald J. Trump. And so this sets up this really fantastic campaign, this really fantastic battle in Bexar County and surrounding areas. I'm going to have him introduce himself just a little bit, but a deputy sheriff by the name of Johnny Garcia, candidate in Texas 35. Johnny, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. Big supporter, big fan. Seems like, you're getting the right candidates out and in front of the community. And I'm thankful to be here before you, especially as a Latino candidate here in San Antonio.
You are definitely one of those right candidates. You've been on our radar a long time, so I'm glad we finally made the connection. We're able to get you on. I know you're really, really busy. I can't imagine what being a candidate is like, and I want to start with that. What is this, the pace of the campaign, the tempo, the constancy of it all? How are you finding it, man? Are you enjoying it, or is it kind of sucking the life out of you? I mean, it's a contested race. There's a lot of eyeballs on you. What's different about this than what you've been doing in your normal, real human being life?
Absolutely. This is probably coffee cup number 3 of the day, maybe
Cafecito
4 or 5.
Powered by Cafecito.
That's it, brother. I got asked that same question the other day, and I said, look, I've done a whole lot harder, more dangerous things as a sheriff's deputy. Quite frankly, now this is a big opportunity, a pickup opportunity for us here in Texas, as you alluded to at the top. This is one of the 5 seats Donald Trump called Greg Abbott to rig the midterm election cycle. He said, find me 5 seats. He said, yes, sir, I'll get it done. Well, they weren't anticipating pissing off a Democrat deputy sheriff to step into this race, a Latino deputy sheriff to step into this race to say, no mas, I'm not going to let this happen on my watch. And there's a lot of things that are happening on the ground that are very special. We were just in Wilson County last night. A county that they redrew into this district, a red county, and it was packed to the gills with strong support, people that are just fed up and frustrated with what they're seeing in the economy. As you know, gas prices are through the roof, grocery prices are through the roof. It's getting a whole lot harder to make it to Sunday to buy your barbacoa and Big Red. And here in San Antonio, that means a lot to families. When you're able to sit down and have some barbacoa and Big Red at the end of the week, get the family together, well, this administration doesn't understand that. And when they came into Texas, they forgot that after you go down every highway, you get to see a sign that says, don't mess with Texas. Well, Democrats are standing up to say, no te metas con Texas. Don't mess with Texas. And in this midterm election, we're going to get to see that play out.
No te metas con Texas. I love that. I hadn't heard that before. What is the moment like when you decide you got a great career going, you're deputy sheriff, well respected, well liked, kind of pillar of the community? What makes you? When was the moment, Johnny, when you're like, you know what, I got to get into this thing? Like, you know, it's going to be a sacrifice. You know, it's not fun. You know what's coming. Everybody around you's got to pay a price too. Like, what happens when you're like, this is the moment I got to get in? Like, do you remember the moment? Was it building? Tell us the story.
It was seeing ICE tear down our communities, right? And seeing that play over and over again and again. I knew that what they were doing was creating a divide, and it was eroding our public trust that many of my fellow brothers and sisters have literally died protecting. And when I swore an oath to protect and serve, it wasn't to divide our communities. It was to protect those that could not protect themselves. It was to be the voice for the voiceless, and ultimately, just keep San Antonio safe at the end of the day. But you compile that with what we were seeing with this economy. Uh, Tariffs started hurting our community. Our construction industry was tremendously impacted. Our restaurants, our panaderias, our taquerias were being hit the hardest. And folks were just not able to make ends meet with the increase of prices that we were all facing. And you know, here in Texas, we love our barbecue. And when I get to talk to some of our restaurant owners, especially like in Guadalupe County, you know, when I talked to the Davilas, they said the same clientele that we used to have a year before this administration took place, we're not seeing them walk through the doors anymore because folks are getting pinched out of the everyday essentials that they were used to being able to enjoy on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, look, I get it. It's a sacrifice. It is, but it's all the more worthwhile that we fight with everything that we have in order to win this seat. When they redrew this district, they were doing so to silence Latino and minority voters, not knowing that this district is majority Latino with over 52%. The same folks that they thought they had from the 2024 election cycle, we're seeing them come back to the party. These are the folks that understand how important it is to have barbacoa and Big Red on Sundays with your family. The same Latinos that they thought they were going to be able to just have again in 2026, they're the ones that are saying no mas. We're not going down with the same playbook that they're playing on, because tariffs are hurting everybody. They're
Yeah.
hurting 97% of small businesses and working class families. This big, beautiful, ugly bill. There's nothing beautiful about making life more difficult for a single mother trying to get healthcare for her child. There's nothing beautiful about closing rural hospitals. As we know, in this district, you got 3 rural hospitals in this district. So, you know, these are the things that South Central Texans are pissed off about. And it's why we're going to see this huge change happen in Texas.
Johnny, tell us about the district. Like, where is it at geographically? And we'll put up a little graphic to kind of show
Yeah.
listeners so that, you know, if those of us that are watching it on YouTube can see it. But for those that are listening to it on the podcast, tell us a little bit about the district. What cities, what counties, where the population centers are, the registration advantage, all of that stuff. What's it
Absolutely.
looking like?
So this district used to be held by Congressman Greg Casar, the 35th district, and it used to run from San Antonio, literally along I-35 to Austin. Well, they redrew it specifically for a former state representative who was a Republican. And House District 118 overlaps with House Congressional District 35 here in San Antonio. So if you're looking at a map, I say it starts around 12, where the airport is, and it wraps all the way around San Antonio, covering north, northeast, south, southeast, and southwest portions of Bexar County. Over 62% of the electorate comes out of this county, and then it also has Guadalupe, Wilson, and Karnes counties. So it has a very urban epicenter with 3 rural counties to this district. So Look, I was born and raised here in San Antonio. I graduated from Memorial High School, one of the most underfunded and marginalized school districts in America. I worked construction and plumbing coming out of high school, digging trenches by hand, uh, installing PVC pipe in newly built homes. I say it very proudly. And many of the folks that work in this industry believe so as well. I literally built America from the ground up. And then I joined the sheriff's office where I worked in the jail. I then joined the SWAT team as a SWAT hostage negotiator. And the last 8 years, I've served as spokesperson for the sheriff's office. So, when folks want to say Democrats are soft on crime, that's where I reject that notion. And I say we are very much all about law and order. And my candidacy is a check on that very hit that Democrats come from a different cloth this midterm election cycle because we have a deputy sheriff that has served and protected our community and that is going to stand for funding law enforcement, not defunding law enforcement.
Let's talk about that a little bit because you're one of the few, I think, candidates that has been. Were you recruited? Were you not recruited? I don't know. I want you to answer that question, but also like, there's not a lot of cops, police officers, sheriffs that are Democrats running for office in this environment. Are there any other running for Congress, or is it just kind of you right now?
I am the only Democrat deputy sheriff running in the nation.
Yeah.
In this slate.
Okay.
But look, like I said,
were you recruited? Did the DCCC come out and say, "Who are you? Would you consider running?"
I think once I got on the map, it brought a whole lot of interest to this area, right? Yeah. I say that I had no intentions on running for office. I was doing great as a sheriff's deputy, putting on my uniform, clocking into work, literally 24/7, 365. But if you ever want to make God laugh, tell him you have a plan, and he'll say he has something different in store for you. And I think I've expressed my plan too many times publicly to say, I think we have something in store for you. Well, here we are as the Democratic nominee. We've been able to overcome so many obstacles in this race. In the primary election, as I mentioned, right, they redo this for a sitting state representative, thinking it was in the bag. We got to see that plan backfire as we drew the Trump endorsed candidate. Republican super PAC spent nearly $1 million to help uplift a weaker opponent that was going to lose easily in the general election. Well, guess what? We made that plan backfire. And now we're looking to make this third act backfire entirely and turn this gerrymander into a dummymander here in District 35.
So, Chuck and I talk a lot about, how both parties have changed. My party, the Republican Party, has just completely lost its mind. But the Democratic Party, Chuck grew up on a factory floor as a union guy, right? And he's, cowboy hat too. You look better in a hat than Chuck does, by the way. So thanks for representing, because I was like, finally somebody looks handsome in a cowboy hat. Texan, love it, appreciate it. But in a lot of ways, you have seen sort of the change in the party. I mean, it's real. It's okay to talk about. It's not good or bad. Yeah. But being a law enforcement officer, do you feel there's a constituency there? Is it something you need to retrain the party on? Because that's where most Americans are at. Certainly where your folks in Texas are at. You're not just Texas generally, but where your people, San Antonio, Bexar County, like you're part of Texas. It's like law enforcement is revered. It's part of what you do. It's part of those parts of the country. Talk about those dynamics there. Like, what is that? Have you had those conversations with other members of the caucus? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it welcomed? Is it concerning? Is there a fight brewing that everyone's worried about?
It's been told to me oftentimes, Johnny, you're going to be the check and balance to kind of bring us back and hold us in place when we do win back the House majority, right? Because I'm different. But also, you talked about have I had these conversations? I have. You're going to be in Beeville this coming weekend. Back in December, I was in Karnes County, which is the southernmost county in this district. It's a rural red county, right? We were there for the Christmas lights parade, the Karnes County Christmas lights parade. So, in these small towns, they love parades. People come out in droves. And I'm a sheriff's deputy. I'm looking around the parade route, talking to folks, and I see a constable deputy. And I said, he's a cop, I'm a cop. Let me go test the waters. Let me gauge the temperature here in Karnes County. Knowing more than likely he's a MAGA Republican. I go up to him and not realizing he had seen me walk from a truck that had a big old flag that said Democrat on it. So when I approach him, he's like, who's this Democrat? What do you want? I could kind of gauge it, right? So I shake his hand and said, hey, man, I'm just here to introduce myself. I'm Johnny Garcia, um, running for Congress here in Congressional District 35 to be your next congressman. But also, I'm a sheriff's deputy in San Antonio. And he says, oh, you work for Javier. I'm sorry about that. I said, you don't have to be. We run and gun just like anybody else in, in law enforcement. But actually, I work for a cop's cop, and he allows us to do our job. And I could tell he really didn't expect or like that answer. So I said, look, man, I was just coming to introduce myself and, Johnny Garcia. So I went back to the truck. I was there with some of the ladies from Wilson County Democrats, and they're like, hey, he's coming back. I think he wants some more. It's like, all right, cool. So sure enough, lo and behold, he started having a full-on debate on the side of this parade route, asking just about every little Democratic issue that he thought he'd be able to hit me on, not knowing that he was debating against a SWAT hostage negotiator. And after defeating him on all his issues that he thought he was going to have, then finally he probably got a hold of the one Democrat he hadn't been able to get a hold of in quite some time. In the everyday terms, what normal people call the awkward silence. In negotiations, it's an actual tactic that we use, and it's called an effective pause. And when you're defeating somebody on all their issues and topics, I let that effective pause set in. And I said, hey, brother, look, in law enforcement, when we respond to calls for service, we don't ask dispatch whether that home we're headed to is Democratic or Republican. And he cut me off, and he said, you're right, we just respond. And I said, well, damn, look at you sounding like a Democrat. He said, I ain't no damn Democrat, I'm a MAGA Republican. I said, all right. I turned over to the ladies and I said, hey, I think we got one here. I let that set in for a few seconds. And lo and behold, he turns over to me and he says, man, about 20 years ago, I used to be a Democrat. I said, all right, now we got a conversation. I said, well, what happened? And he said, I felt like the Democratic Party left us behind here in South Texas. And as you know, you probably have felt the same way, right? But I said, I don't know what that Democratic Party that you used to be a part of, that you felt abandoned you. I do know this, that Senate and House Republicans and this administration is doing nothing for both sides of the aisle. And when you're having less money at the end of the week, not being able to make paycheck to paycheck, or when you're barely surviving paycheck to paycheck, rather, when you're not able to stop at Whataburger to buy burgers for the family after Friday night lights here in Texas, those are the things that get people to come back to our party, because it makes no sense what they're doing when they side with an administration that doesn't understand, what $20 does to fill up your gas tank. These are the things that resonate with South Texans. Folks just want to be able to go to H-E-B and buy their groceries. They just want to be able to keep their lights on. They just want to be able to have a roof over their head. They want to be able to go to the pharmacy without breaking the bank. Well, guess what? The Republican Party is making it a whole lot harder for you. And we are the subscription. We are the prescription to making life a little bit more affordable for everyday Texans.
Johnny, that's just such the perfect story. The way I think real people are responding to it, everything from kind of the initial, defensiveness and the way we approach our politics. He obviously comes back because he knows there's something there and he wants you to give him something to hold on to. And that's the way, like, we're seeing voters, especially Latino voters, like, responding to. It's like, just give me something to hold on to, because I'm not comfortable with what's going on. Like, he'll say, I'm a MAGA Republican and all that. But the truth of the matter is, if that were true, he wouldn't have come back. Like, he came back because he's seeing something in you and saying, I got to respond to this because I know I was something 20 years ago and I want to know if that's still there. And you're telling him, yeah, there are still people in the party that are like that. We're still South Texas, and we're not going to shy away from it. We're going to stand up and we're going to fight for it. So look, I got a question, because I think this really gets down to the heart of the matter here. You're seeing that change back. You're having these conversations on the ground with people in small town Texas. But you also saw the shift away from the party too in 2024, and it was happening for a while. What is all of that telling us? What does it mean? What does the moment mean down there? Because that's the question I'm flying down to South Texas tomorrow to answer. What do I need to be asking? What should I be looking for?
I think you hit it. It's what do people want back in their politics? And I think they want some common sense, especially here in Texas. You know, that's why we feel that we're different from the rest of the nation, because things in life is a whole lot different here in Texas. When they say, "How are you different from the Democratic brand?" We have to call it like it is. The Biden administration got it completely wrong on the border. And as a deputy sheriff, I got to see when we were busting down stash houses, and we're doing everything that we could to root out harmful drugs that was coming into our communities. We got to see the real impacts that Democrats failed us here on the border in Texas, and that's why we got to see a lot of Latinos leave our party, the same Latinos that are coming back. uh, you know, Here in Texas, we're a very gun-centric culture state. People love to go hunt. People want to be able to protect their families and their homes. We have a constitutional right to bear arms. And we know that people still care about responsible gun ownership and guns being in the right hands of those that are able to legally own them. When folks talk about some of these societal issues and they hear that I don't prescribe to some of the wokeness that comes out of our party. These are the things that move us and separate us a little bit differently from the typical Democratic brand, and these are the things that resonate with folks here in South Central Texas. Like, it makes no sense that guys should be in women's sports. These are some of the real issues that people talk about here on the ground. But at the end of the day, affordability remains the most focal point heading into this election. As I mentioned, folks aren't able to stop at Buc-ee's, fill up their gas tank, and go inside for a barbecue sandwich. We're approaching football season, and as I just mentioned, families ain't going to be able to stop at Whataburger to get burgers for their kids on their way home. Families aren't able to afford barbacoa and Big Red on Sundays because of the extreme prices that tariffs continue to hurt South Texans here. So I think you're going to get to see uh, folks here in Texas just want some change, and they are ready to break from the party. We just have to give them a reason to, and make sure that they stay engaged till November.
I can't tell people how extraordinary it is to hear Hispanics talking about everything that you're talking about as good Democrats, but you're a law enforcement officer. You're not afraid to say the Biden stuff on the border, it was a fiasco. It just was. Let's just stop. Okay. We don't need to protect and defend the partisan stuff. Doesn't mean that Democrats are bad on these issues. It just means it wasn't done well. It wasn't. And the price of gas matters, and gun ownership matters. And this was what the Democratic Party was when I was growing up, even in California. Like you could be all of those in California. You could be all of those things, and it is extraordinary to be a California now and saying, "Wow!" I mean, like the caucus meetings that you and Bobby are going to walk into, in DC, are going to be fantastic because you're at where the margins are going to be. Because look, if you guys win, and this is look, people got to watch this, what we call the undervote in Texas. It's not terribly uncommon to have candidates at your level, Bobby Polito's level, these congressional races getting more votes than the top of the ticket does. It's not that it's anomalous nationally, but it's not that uncommon in these parts of Texas because you're so connected to the community. People come out, they know you in these parts. They've shaken your hand. You're the deputy sheriff. You've been in the community since you were a kid. You grew up there. You're from San Antonio, from the heart of the district. They're coming out to vote for you. Like, it's not the DC politicians. It's not what's going on,
Absolutely.
out in the Potomac River. They're coming out to vote for you. And I love the way that you guys proudly lean into your culture because you're not trying to bend it towards the politics. You're bending the politics towards your culture.
Absolutely.
And that's something that the Democratic Party has really, really needed. That's why you've seen these people leave. These are your friends. You went to elementary school with these people. You went to, academy with these people. You worked with these people, and you know who they are, and you know that they're leaving for a reason. And like this gentleman who came back to you in the parking lot, he's looking for a reason to come back, and your candidacy gives him that reason.
Absolutely. Look, we say when things used to be a certain way, we call it old school. And guess what? When I launched my campaign, I launched as an old school Democrat. And people were like, what's an old school Democrat? Like, well, you remember about 20 years ago, the way Democratic policies and the party used to be? I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what we're running on. We're putting you before the party. We're putting you and your family and the issues before the party. This is a different time in Texas. We've seen the pendulum swing back and forth, and finally, this is our moment here in Texas to change the political landscape. I'm a blue dog Democrat. I'm a law and order Democrat. I'm a Texas Democrat. We know that there's 4 blue dogs that are working hard to change our landscape here in Texas, with Henry, with Vicente, with Bobby, and now this district, Congressional District 35. Look, I learned early on in life from my mom what Democrats were and what Democrats stood for. She used to say, Mijo, Democrats fight for working class people like us so that we can pursue the American dream. And as you get older, you get to see, the Democratic Party and what things actually move us as Democrats. But, she also taught me a saying that I still live by to this day. No me den nada en las manos, solo denme la oportunidad de luchar por ello. Right? I'm not looking for handouts. The majority of Latinos, we don't need handouts. We just need to be put in a position of opportunity.
Yeah.
And we'll go fight for it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm asking this district to do. Put me in an opportunity to fight for you and your families. And guess what? I'll do so.
I love that. I love the way you talk about it. Tell me, what do you think?
Because culture, you mentioned it before we leave that.
Yeah.
Culture means everything here.
It's everything.
And that's why, the Republican Party and my Republican opponent doesn't understand how important culture is. I say on the campaign trail, folks, your $100 bill isn't going to last you at HEB like it used to before this administration took place. And I say, if your families are like mine, you love your buttered tortillas at HEB a whole lot more, but you're not able to. So, culture means everything to us in this district. My opponent's just running to be another yes man, wingman for Donald Trump. And guess what? We've seen from a Congress full of Republican yes man. We've seen higher gas prices, higher grocery prices, unaffordable health care, housing that's out of reach. I'm 39 years old. We're now seeing the average age of buying your first home get further and further later in life.
Yeah.
And guess what? I still don't own a home.
Yeah.
And the majority of young people, I'm 39, I'm young-ish, have yet to buy their first home because it's becoming an impossible reality.
Yeah.
It's something that's not possible these days, let alone being able to start a family. That's scary. When you're not able to being able to start a family, being able to buy your home, we know that one of the first ways to generational wealth is having your own home, but it's getting further and further from reality.
Especially in our communities, especially for Latinos, right? I mean, like we're not born with 401ks or trust funds. Buying a home is everything. I mean, my parents buying their home is what saved our family and kept us afloat, and
Yes,
for
sir.
good and bad. You know what I mean? It's like we had to tap into that equity sometimes, frankly, to pay the bills. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm proud of it. My parents made it work, and it was not easy. It was not hard, and it was not rare. That was the way a lot of our families survived and still do. And if we never had that first leg in, if we never had that ability to buy a home, which is increasingly becoming a pipe dream all over the country, like what does that mean for the next generation? And when I say next generation, Latinos are younger than everybody else. We're the ones at child rearing age. We're the ones buying our first homes. When we're frozen out, you start to create this 2-tier society. You lock it in with these bad policies. And that's where I've been, critical of the entire system, not one party or the other, but everybody, like todos, everybody's to blame for this. You brought up kind of where the opposition's going. And look, I love the way you characterize it, because And I have been saying, I wrote a damn book about it. The Republican Party doesn't understand the culture of Mexicanos or Mexican Americans or Hispanics or Latinos broadly. There's nothing demonstrating that. So much of these victories in 2024 and a couple cycles prior to that were about Democrats losing these voters, not Republicans winning. I mean, there's a big difference. There's a big
Absolutely.
difference. So what is your what is your competition doing? What is what is Mr. De La Cruz doing? Because his sister's not doing anything. She ain't showing up. They're like trying to mail it in, try to win from afar.
Absolutely. Look, you mentioned it at the top as well, that I'm running against Carlos de la Cruz. Carlos de la Cruz. His sister is Monica de la Cruz, running against Bobby Pulido. So you got two Texas hat wearing Texans running to give a bruising on the de la Cruzes, right? Uh, they're just working to be the ultimate family political dynasty. I'm running against the ultimate insider. You know, you got two folks that are focused on everything to include the adjectives and the verbs and the pronouns, but they're not focused on the most important noun, YOU. They're not focused on your families. And this is the difference between me and my Republican opponent. Somebody that's running to be the wingman of Donald Trump. I'm running to be the wingman of Congressional District 35 and District 35 families. That's my focus. You know, I say it very proudly that, you know, I'm a deputy sheriff, I'm a SWAT hostage negotiator, construction worker, plumber, right? We need a construction worker to go up to Washington, D.C. To fix and rebuild this broken system that isn't working for working class families. We're going to need a plumber to go up to Congress to drain this swamp that Senate and House Republicans have allowed it to fester and turn into this cesspool. We're going to need a deputy sheriff to root out the corruption that continues to unfold before our very eyes each and every day. But, you know, if you ask me, we're going to need a SWAT hostage negotiator to go up to Congress to end this standoff with Senate and House Republicans who continue to hold our economy and democracy hostage. And folks in this district, you know, I've gotten to meet in Wilson County for the Peanut Festival. Bobby had played the night before. This was back in October, early on, and he had already announced, and the maps were still up in the air. So I got to see Bobby there that night. The next morning was the Peanut Festival parade, and you know, Wilson County again, red MAGA territory, but you know, it couldn't have been more symbolic, right? I was on the left side of the parade route, shaking Latina's hands, saying, "My name's Johnny Garcia. I'm running to be your congressman." And you know, some were not knowing because they're not used to engaging with Democratic candidates. And you could see, are you Democrat or Republican? I said, I'm from San Antonio. I'm from the West Side. I'm a Democrat. I said, all right. And you get to see the relief.
Yeah.
And then I ran over to the right side of the parade route and I shake a man's hand and I said, "Hey, my name's Johnny Garcia and I'm running to be your congressman." And he says, "Well, I'm a Republican. Are you just going to get up to Congress and fight and get nothing done?" I said, "Sir, I'm a SWAT hostage negotiator. I know how to have the difficult conversations." He said, "Well, I like that. You got my vote." We're back and forth on the parade route. And again, right, we'll continue to say it till the cows come home. People want change. We need change in this country. And it's why I feel very strongly that we're going to win this seat that they thought was an easy win for them by redrawing to favor themselves, not knowing that they were drawing in a district that's just fed up with what they see out of Washington, D.C.
Remarkable, the candidates that are running down in the southern part of Texas. Just truly, the profiles are really extraordinary. I mean, I was excited about this interview, but I'm more excited about your candidacy now after having spent about, you know, a little half hour kind of talking about this stuff with you. And again, if the Democratic Party can get it together in Texas, it cuts the head off the snake nationally. Everything changes. The whole game changes. And are you seeing something different? Look, let me talk about Tallarico just a little bit too, okay? Because I don't know if it's him or it's the lightning in the bottle moment. Like, you've got a candidate that seems to have crossover appeal. You got Paxton, who's just a disaster. I mean, bro's a fiasco, right? Like, this guy's not popular with anybody. And then you've got this incredibly unpopular president and incumbent, you know, party that's just kind of people they're just done, man. Trump fatigue syndrome is real. People are tired of it. Like, enough with the drama. 10 years of this stuff. I was always critical of a lot of prognosticators and DC folks saying Beto's going to win. I was like, man, I just don't see it in Texas. I'm not saying that this year. Like, I'm not. It's to the point where I'm getting on a plane tomorrow because I want to check my priors, man. I'm looking at my gut saying for 30 years I've been saying this is a pipe dream. I'm not saying that this year. Like, I want to go sniff it out and check it out and go to a dance hall in Beeville, Texas to see what the hell's going on down there. But something's going on. Am I right?
Man, there's there's something special in the air. There's something special here. We got to see in the March primary, Democrats outvote Republicans in this district
by big numbers. And I wasn't
and
close, dude.
That was with an even slate, right? Let's take what we both had on both sides of the aisle. You had Tallarico at the top of our ticket. You had both of their senatorial candidates at the top of their ticket. And Democrats outvoted Republicans by 8,000 votes in this district.
Which is, put that in perspective. Like, how many votes total were in there? Do you know?
Oh gosh, it was somewhere in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken.
So it's a big number. It's a double-digit spread. I mean, it was big. This is a big difference. This is in Texas.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we got to see that early margin of what is going to come in November. So you mentioned it. The Tallarico is a whole lot different than what we got to see in this last Senate race. But at the same time, Beto performed with 49.8% in this district.
Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah.
But with what you're seeing as well, coming out of the polls in favor of Tallarico, we're seeing numbers that we haven't seen in decades. And I think we're going to see some results in Texas that we haven't seen in decades as well.
And nothing against Beto. I mean, I interviewed him in 2020 when I was on the Lincoln Project. I mean, dude ran a tough ground, and he ran a great campaign, and he did well. It's just like, as somebody who looks at the numbers and looks at the polling data and has worked in some of those parts in Texas, I was just like, Texas is tough ground. But like I said, I'm not saying that this year. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. I mean, it's going to be a tough race, but possible. Of course, it's possible. Anybody who's saying Texas is not possible is on something, man, because it is absolutely possible. Any way you look at this is an extremely competitive race. So I'm looking forward to getting down there. I was hoping to be able to kind of visit you. I may still come down now and bug you, and maybe we go down to the Riverwalk there. I love your city, man. I love your city because it's just the culture and the people. It's so old, not in a bad way old, in the pre-United States history old way. Like, the history there is just so rich, the families that have been there for so long, the passion for what it means to be from Bexar County, generally, San Antonio specifically. It's just a cool place, man. It's a cool part of the country. The land is flowing and abundant with flour tortillas and refried beans. That's our culture here, man. We're very we get some strong debates going on who has the best tacos here in Texas, right? So just whenever me and Bobby talk about it as well. Bobby's going to take me down to show me some of his best barbacoa because he's convinced that I haven't had the best food yet. I said, brother, look, when you get elected, I'm going to bring you out to California. I'm going to show you some real Mexican food. Of course, that'll be our fun fight together. But you'll be invited too when you get sworn in, man. I'm really excited about what you're doing. I appreciate you making the time to be with us. Johnny Garcia, tell us how people can get more involved and support your campaign, either on the ground and volunteering or contributing. What can people do?
Look, as I mentioned, I was a sheriff's deputy. Clocking into work, putting on my uniform in order to keep our community safe for the last nearly 2 decades. Protecting and serving my community was my focus, not running to be a career politician. We know that this election is ours to win, but we're going to need the resources and infrastructure to do so. When folks hear about my campaign and they hear about my candidacy and profile and hear about my story, folks favor this campaign. But we're just going to need a little bit of help in order to do so and win this seat back for Democrats and win this seat ultimately for Texas and working class families. So you can do so and join our campaign and help contribute by visiting votejohnnygarcia.com. That's VOTEJOHNNYGARCIA.com. to help us with a contribution. And with your help, with your support, we will win in November. We will win back our democracy, and we'll ultimately save this country.
VoteJohnnyGarcia.com. We'll put the link down below in the comment section. Mr. Deputy Sheriff Johnny Garcia, Texas 35. Thanks for making the time, brother. Great to meet you.
Thank you. Likewise. God bless.
We'll talk to you soon.